We must move toward a gender-inclusive digital economy because there are, in this world today, 250 million fewer women than men in the digital economy. And it further, the document itself further points out that we agreed that participation of women in the digital economy, particularly in low-income and developing countries, is our highest recommendation. Now that may sound sort of counterintuitive, but on the other hand, the document, which you can find if you hit the right symbols on your computer, in fact makes the case very clearly that lack of fundamental literacy and digital skills, as well as financial literacy, prevent the full participation of women and girls in the digital economy. Olga Basolova, with whom I've worked for 25 years in Russia, and I initiated a STEM-focused project that was going to follow a Eurasian Women's Forum, the first international conference that Russia has had in probably decades, that was held in September 2015. They decided they wanted an idea that would sort of carry the theme and some energy building to the next one, which will be held in September of 2018. And Olga and I, who were by this time sort of all wound up in this idea, suggested that STEM be the theme. And suddenly STEM is the theme that is being followed in Russia, which may seem like a counterintuitive place for things like that to happen if you remember, as I do, the situation in Russia in 1989, when 54% of the degrees held by Soviet women were in STEM fields. 54% of bachelor's level degrees were in STEM fields. And so actually, as we started working on this project, Olga and I said, well, what's the percentage now? 18%, said she. And one of the reasons for that, frankly, is because there was something called the Gore-Chernomyrdin Commission that was set up when the Soviet Union collapsed. And we argued successfully that Russia, that had all this oil, all these diamonds, all this other kind of natural resources, didn't need to keep making airplanes and stuff. You know, they could partner with us and do. The point is, we pretty well decimated the field that, frankly, had been created by the Soviet Union as a military exercise. But the point is, when I first met Olga Basolova, she was the deputy director of an institution called SAGI, which is the parallel to NASA. And during the Soviet period, there was no question that they felt they needed every human being they could get trained to be expert in this field that was so important as they saw it to their future. Right now, the educational institutions higher educational institutions in Russia are as good as they always were, particularly in what we would call STEM fields. But the proportion of women taking those degrees is way down. What about the young men? How are they doing? Well, a lot of them are going to New Zealand, to Canada, to England, getting smashingly good jobs because their educations are superb in STEM fields. And women just, I suppose, for reasons of, well, I don't think I want to emigrate. I sort of want to get married and so forth. Well, in any case, the opportunities for women in the traditional economy in Russia have reduced. So Olga and I have worked together, as Kathleen told you, for 25 years. We first met when I helped to create a Soviet American Women's Summit that was held in Washington, D.C. when Gorbachev and Bush were meeting in 1990. And the Soviet Women's Committee helped us set it up. It was the time when we were beginning to think, well, maybe we don't always have to be enemies. And in any case, we sort of clicked, and I was connected at that point not only with IFUW and AAUW, but also with the National Peace Foundation, which had the interest of establishing much more interconnection, much more useful interconnection and peaceful interconnections between Russians and Americans. So we began, actually the State Department of the United States has a program called the Open World Program that specifically targets Russia and former Soviet states for projects in partnership with Americans. So Olga and I have probably managed to bring maybe 10 or 15 different groups of Russian, primarily women, although we also worked in fields like addiction that had us dealing with men as well. But the point is that there is a State Department resource that is at the same time, we're again calling Russia an enemy, that has all this time been saying, let's keep people talking to one another. Well, it was not the G20 initiative that got Olga and me connected to this idea of STEM. It was my understanding what had happened to this volume of women who weren't there any longer in the STEM fields, meaning they're as bad as we are. And that also, as someone who was an English major, who always thought I was going to grow up to be the curator of butterflies at the Field Museum of Natural History in Chicago, which everyone laughed at when I said that in my 8th grade graduation, and of course I never took it seriously again. This whole sense of what wasn't there going on in Russia was something I was interested in getting to the bottom of, as we were. So while we worked on social projects of many different kinds, when the program came up, the possibility came up for us for a theme to be established between 2016 and 2018, we suggested STEM, and oddly enough, because the supporters or the organizers of this forum are the Speaker of the Senate of Russia, Valentina Matvienko, woman, and the Deputy Speaker is Galina Karelova, also a woman. Suddenly, the Russian Senate has a very different set of sort of incentives and priorities than they once did. So we decided when we knew that there was a South Africa conference coming up, that maybe if we could get some support from our respective former IFUW, now Graduate Women International affiliates, maybe we could try this idea out and just see if anybody was interested. Well, it turns out that Women Graduates USA said, oh yeah, you know, we'll support it, you know, we'll say do it. And for some reason, so did the leaders of the Federation of University Women Russia, or GWI Russia. And they have affiliates, I think now, in eight different regions that have been sustained since AAUW helped to establish the first affiliates in, I think it was, I don't remember when we had a Finland.
89.
And in any case, they started then, and they started in St. Petersburg, and that branch is still going strong, but there are now others, Ivanova, Novosibirsk, you know, all over the place, and they're living. So that very good news made us think that we needed to use, to connect both Graduate Women International with a little more gas maybe, and get more US people involved in seeing its possibilities. And so how to do it, we wondered. How could we make a project interesting to universities in Russia and in the United States? Well, we thought maybe that what we could do is to get some research partnerships going between universities. Share research that help us determine strategies that really increase girls preparing and women prepared for STEM fields and jobs. Increase STEM skills for girls and women who are choosing traditional fields because they are now increasingly, of course, going to be dependent on these new STEM or E-skill competencies. So, for some, we were, I think, maybe surprised to discover how quickly we got universities on both sides. I happen to go to my own university, or as a retired faculty member, at least they know my name. And in any case, said, come on, can we get a partnership going? Because we have in our university a faculty-student international research stipend that will send professor-student partnerships to other countries to engage in their research. So we not only got accepted by UW-Eau Claire, but we've got 4 faculty members now, in our case all 4 women, and we also have at Ivanova State University, one that's been a long time IFUW GWI connection. And we agreed that the research that we would focus on is what courses that we're currently offering attract female students in anything like proportionate numbers, and to what extent are there courses that tend to move them on, or have them say, as many as I did, for instance, well, I tried that and that's not going to work, without trying it really. And the point is then that they say that the credibility of their research, they, by the way, took the AAUW report, Shortchanging Girls, Shortchanging America, and moved it to a survey they did in Ivanova, Russia, a very large regional center of Russia. And they discovered, surprisingly, some of the same things we had discovered. So I think the consciousness that has happened is one that's really pushing this project and pushing the partnership. And we got a letter that said the scientific credibility of our research is supported by the president of our university, the sociology head. We're interested in this partnership for collaborative research because we know the USA attaches great importance to overcoming barriers to girls and young women in STEM education. And as they say here, 2 of our team participated in recent open world STEM visits to the United States and met with Olga and me as they were headed to one case Maui and the other case Washington State University. The point is, we're using the old systems that we had before for other kinds of projects, and the team, we brought 10 Russian scholars to these 2 places who were looking at all the things that happen in the STEM fields, particularly the connections with different employers, different other kinds of jobs in the area that they live in. So the point is that the project is going, and we have a 2018 Eurasian Women's Forum coming up, and are planning to have a roundtable, a STEM roundtable, and expect that we're going to have a lot more participants, both not only from Russia, but from some of the other countries who participate. So, go STEM. Or E-skills for girls.